Hello everyone, that's today's second video. So we're doing the CFS 6 months look ahead for today's second video. Does exactly what the name says on the tin. We're going to go 6 months ahead with the long range CFS V2 models just for fun. So this is going to take us from next month, from June all the way through to November, heading down towards the closing stages of the year with the 6 month outlook. But do bear in mind that it's only month 1 and 2 that are kind of like semi-reliable if the model is working okay. And when you get to 3, 4, 5 and 6 months away, that's in the realm of speculation. It's just a snapshot of what the model is showing for that time frame this month, but of course it might look very, very different when we come to look at it again next month. So big health warning as ever with the CFS 6 months look ahead, but we will have a look and show you what charts are showing for the next 6 months going from June through to November 2018. Just say that today's first video weekend forecast is here on the homepage. Just scroll down the page a little bit, you'll find it above dollar count. There's also the written version. You can get that from buttons at the top of the page. Going to be a pretty warm week to come. And later on this evening, we are actually going to release the fourth, I think we're up to update number 4 now. The 4th update for the late spring bank holiday weekend. So it'll be around 7 o'clock this evening. Have a butcher's at that. Let's see what you think. Right, we're going to have a look at 700 millibar height anomalies. First of all, from the CFS V2 model. And then we'll have a look at corresponding temperature and corresponding precipitation anomalies. But go with these heights. Now, we're beginning with June, just 1 month away. So if everything is working correctly, and if everything is working as it should, this ought to be the most reliable part of all of this. So we've got above average heights here with the 700 millibar height anomaly out to the east and the northeast of the British Isles, with below average heights in the middle of the Atlantic. The jet stream looks like it will probably be doing something a little bit like that. So it's one of those in between months to start us off. Really, potentially it could be very warm with the high pressure just up there. We could be dragging in the wind from an east-southeasterly direction. Of course, that's going to be coming from a rapidly warming, a rapidly heating continent. Conversely, though, we have got a risk with this trough of below average heights in the Atlantic that we might, if we take this ridge far enough north, take it somewhere like there, then we might undercut the ridge with this trough, and so it could actually be rather more unsettled than you might think on face value. So to start us off, we've got a rather complicated 700 millibar height anomaly, but I think on balance, given the position, or the centre I suppose I should say, of that ridge, I think that could be a very warm month actually, and pretty dry as well. Maybe a tad thundery, who knows, but certainly quite a warmish month shaping up there, I think. Then we go through to July. Now, July is a really sort of complicated one, because there isn't much to go on, really, in terms of the Northern Hemisphere 700 millibar height anomalies. So, well, it's hard to say what is happening. We know we've got a bit of yellow going on up here, so maybe hinting at a bit of blocking being up there. But otherwise, it really is a very little to go on at all there. I suppose there might be a little bit of yellow just there, so maybe some sort of ridge through a bit of the Atlantic, but only very, very weakly. And otherwise, I don't really think we can draw any sort of conclusions from that in terms of 700 millibar height anomaly. So just have to have a look and see what the temperature and also what the precipitation anomaly show for July. And then hopefully we'll be able to get a slightly clearer idea about what the model is thinking could happen in July. Because from a height anomaly, really isn't enough to go on to be able to say what the model is predicting for July. So I think we have to wait for temperature and precipitation anomalies, which we're going to have a look at in a moment. So I think really we have to just move on and take a quick look at August next. So this is a 700 millibar height anomaly for August, and thankfully we do have more to work on here, although this is month 3, so it's further away than July, which is month 2. At least have a slightly stronger signal, funnily enough. So we've got a big ridge of above average heights, which is centering over Scandinavia here in August. Then we've got below average heights just out to the west and the southwest of the UK. So this looks like it will probably be bringing in easterly winds, and they could be quite hot as well. Easterly winds in August will tend to pick up a lot of heat from off the continent. Now, the only thing, of course, we've got this trough just to the southwest of Ireland, and so this could well be engaging with the humidity and the heat that will be dragged in by those east winds, and that could be a classic scenario for thunder. So maybe a hot but thundery type weather in August. That could be a very interesting month indeed if that comes off. It's only 3 months away, so it's not beyond the realm of impossibility, but it might come off. It's 3 months, so confidence is falling, but certainly that's a very interesting looking anomaly there for August. Then we go through to September, and this just looks like a solidly unsettled month. We've got below average heights in the Atlantic. We're extending through the UK. We've got above average heights in the central Atlantic, and so the flow and the jet are doing something like that. The ridge is pushed much further eastwards over here, so that's a long way from us. And essentially, we've just got a rather cool and unsettled month being signalled there in September. Bear in mind, that's month 4, so we are getting to the realm of just for fun now. Then we go through to October, and that one also looking rather unsettled, with below average heights out to the west of the country, above average heights through the middle of the Atlantic. The flow is coming across the Atlantic like that, so just a rather changeable, rather autumnal month in October. Not necessarily all that stormy, but certainly on the unsettled side. And then we finish up in November. This is 6 months away, so obviously, I keep saying it all the time, it's just for fun. Big health warning associated with this. What we see is that we've got above average heights to our east, extending through Europe. The centre of it actually appears to be to the north, but there's like a wall of high pressure that's building across central and eastern parts of Europe. We've got below average heights to the south of Greenland, above average heights pulled back towards the east coast of America, so the jet stream would be coming across the Atlantic like that, and they would be running into that wall of pressure. I assume a split would be taking place, with some of the energy going to the south and some going up to the north. What we would probably find in that scenario is that we would be bringing up the air from a southerly or southeasterly direction, which is probably going to be quite mild in November. But of course, if those southerly winds were to go far enough north, it would start to pull up warm air advection, then we would start to increase the ridge around here, and of course that could be a cold signal in November. But anyway, it's not worth dwelling on it because it's 6 months away, and I mean, it's not going to verify, let's be honest, so we won't worry too much about that. Let's have a look at the temperature anomalies then, coming back to June. So again, this is how the temperature anomaly is looking for June. You see, most of Northern Europe is actually signalled to have quite a warm month. So the highest anomalies to average across Scandinavia, but many parts of Europe are coming out with a warmer than average month during June. It's a bit warmer than average across Scotland. Otherwise, actually, the UK is one of the cooler places in Europe, along with Ireland. We're just coming out close to average. Notice Spain and Portugal coming out a bit cooler than average. There are anomalies to average, though. So even if it's a bit cooler than average in June in central parts of Spain, it will still be hot. And you know, I've got to bear that in mind with anomalies to average. So close to average temperatures for the UK in June. But I think, if anything, we probably favour the warmer than average side. Then we come to July, and again, there's really strange looking anomalies for July. Again, not much to go on, other than what we can say is that obviously July is a lot cooler compared to average compared to June across much of Europe. So that's the temperature anomaly that's taking place across many central and northern parts of Europe in June. That's a temperature anomaly that's taking place across many central and northern parts of Europe in July. And obviously, it's much closer to average, so therefore, it's a significantly cooler month in July compared to June, compared to average. So, weak signals, but I think favouring a cooler July most definitely compared to June. And then go through to August, and that also is looking rather cool with the temperatures, you have to say, especially considering the pattern. So remember what's happening in August is that we've got a ridge up here centering around Scandinavia. We've got below average heights down there. So the ridge across Scandinavia would be bringing in hot easterly winds, you would assume. But then this trough of below average heights would also be bringing instability. So the hot easterly winds, along with the instability, I thought, could produce some very warm conditions, but also potentially some very thundery conditions. But the CFS doesn't look like it's particularly interested in that, to be honest. And all I can assume is that, so the high pressure is up here. All I can assume is that the warmth is like going off up there in that kind of direction, which makes sense because actually Iceland, the eastern part of Greenland up towards Svalbard, that area is actually coming out substantially warmer than average. And then this area below average heights that we have around here, maybe that's running in across the UK, much of Europe, with a southerly tracking jet stream. And so actually what at first appeared as though it might be quite a hot and thundery month just turns out to be a rather cool, and when we see the precipitation anomalies, maybe rather unsettled month for many parts of Europe as well. September looks like that. Very weak signals again for September. Now, you'll remember what was happening here. Month 4, so it is in morale just for fun. But in September, we got low pressure in this sort of area, so running in with the jet stream in that sort of direction. Again, notice warmer than average in the north, so it hints that maybe there might be some sort of higher pressure signals going on up there perhaps. But overall, just a rather cool and unsettled signal for September. October, month 5, again, signals very weak, nothing really to go on from a temperature anomaly perspective, other than it's a bit warmer than average for northern parts of Scandinavia and also for Iceland. And then we come to November, which is 6 months away. So in November, remember what's going on. We've got this sort of wall of high pressure building through much of central and also northern Europe. So we've got low pressure sort of out there. And we've also got some high pressure around there. The jet stream would be coming across the Atlantic like that, coming up against that wall of high pressure. Some of the energy would go off at there, some of it would go down there, and you'd just get this big ridge that would pull in these southerly, southeasterly winds. And of course in November a southerly southeast wind is going to be relatively mild, so that's why it's forecasting quite a mild month across many parts of Europe. And then we come back to the precipitation. So this is how the precipitation anomaly is looking for June from CFS V2. Quite interesting because it shows that many southern parts of Europe are coming out wetter than average. So Italy, south of France, down to Spain and Portugal, coming out wetter than average there. Whereas northern Europe is coming out drier than average. So overall, I think we're facing a pretty decent June, I have to say. All the signals here are pinpointing a June that is relatively high pressure dominated, really quite dry, not just across the UK, but across much of northern Europe as well. And potentially, although the temperature only wasn't that exciting for the UK, it was very warm for much of central northern Europe, and I think we would be putting in a lot of that warmth into the UK as well. So a pretty nice month to start off the summer of 2018. Then we go through to July. You remember the height anomaly in July was pretty nonsensical. There wasn't much to go on from a temperature anomaly perspective either. The signals are weaker in terms of precipitation as well in July. What we can say is that, again, much of southern Europe is coming out quite wet. Northern Europe still hinting at being a bit drier than average, but much less so compared to June. So I think what's happening here, and let's just have a look at August to confirm this. So let's go through to August, and you'll see that in August we have got a wetter than average month being signalled. Not just for the UK, but for many central parts of Europe as well. We're losing the wetter than average anomalies across southern Europe. It's turning drier to average there. The precipitation is affecting many parts of the UK, Ireland, France, Low Countries, Germany. So these central parts of Europe are going wet. And then up here, we're drier than average over Scandinavia with the high pressure up there. So there's two things going on. Let's deal with August first of all, because that's the month we're looking at. We've got the ridge up here, which would be taking the hot easy winds, where it would be hot easy winds in that sort of direction. We've got low pressure around here, which is also associated with the jet stream that's running in like that. Now we're probably raising heights a bit to the south of that across southern parts of Europe, so that's the reason it's going drier there. So it confirms the idea really that August is actually, although the height anomaly appeared as though it could be quite warm and thundery, it's actually just a cool and unsettled month being forecast here in August. Now what's going on, I think, let's come back to July. In fact, let's go back to June. So what's going on is that the model is deteriorating the pattern through the summer. So in June, we've got this really quite warm and dry pattern setting up with a lot of high pressure across these sort of areas. And then we've got the low pressure all down here. So the jet stream is also affecting parts of southern Europe as well, but also the jet stream will be going off up there. So two arms of the jet, if you like. Anyway, for June, it's going for a nice month. In July, it's seeing a deterioration. So this is why the signals in terms of the height anomaly, the temperature anomaly, and also the precipitation anomaly, is why the signals are weaker. The reason that's happening is because we may start off still with June's pattern. Actually, the early part of July might still be very warm, a lot of dry weather. But through the month of July, I reckon the model is seeing a deterioration until we eventually arrive in this much, much cooler and much more unsettled pattern in August. So a front-loaded summer is definitely on the cards if the CFS V2 is right, which is that all the warmth happens at the front part of the summer. All of the summer light weather, if you like, happens early, and then you get this deterioration through the middle part of the summer. The pattern begins to change through July, eventually arriving in a much cooler and much more unsettled pattern in August. Then we go through to September, and this one also looking rather unsettled in September. You'll remember we have the jet stream going through there with low pressure as well. So it's a bit drier than average across Scandinavia, and actually parts of Scotland come out a little bit drier than average as well. But I think overall probably quite an unsettled and cool month in September. October looks like that. So again, it looks very wet across parts of France. Not sure why that should be, really. There's low pressure. We know there's low pressure in the Atlantic, so it's just a trap that those areas of low pressure are taking. And then going through to November, and what's happening then is that many sort of central eastern parts of Europe are going quite dry, so that's where the high pressure is, of course, and it's building up here as well. Elsewhere across Western Europe is just closer to average, but I don't think we'll worry about the autumn at this stage. So that's how it's looking for the next 6 months. Quite an interesting update, because it appears that the CFS is still keen on this idea of a front-loaded summer. So we get the warmth, the dry weather early on in June, then the pattern changes in July, and we finish up in what could be a rather unsettled, cool, wet, autumnal, dare I say it, August. So that's the summer dealt with. As far as the autumn is concerned, of course, that's much further away, so confidence is very low. But as far as the autumn is concerned, probably starts off quite unsettled, then maybe trends a bit drier later. But that's too far away to really be talking about. So that's this month's CFS 6 month look ahead done and dusted. We'll do it all over again for you next month. Of course, next month's update will extend to December, which I'm sure will be quite an interesting update, to say the least. Alright, don't forget to check out Weekend Broadcast if you haven't yet done so. And later on today, we're going to have the 4th update for the late spring bank holiday weekend. But that's all for now, and thanks for watching.